At first glance, this is just a dead tangle of dry branches, tossed onto the scorching desert sand. No greenery, no signs of life. But when it rains, within just a few hours, the plant unfurls its stems, its leaves turn green, and photosynthesis begins. Before us is one of the most mysterious phenomena in the plant world, the resurrection plant. The most famous representative of this phenomenon is Selaginella lepidophylla, or the Rose of Jericho. In conditions of complete drought, it loses up to 95% of its moisture and curls up into a tight ball. It can remain like this for years until even a little water appears. The resurrection mechanism is based on the plant's unique tissue structure. The outer layers contract when dehydrated and instantly unfold upon contact with moisture. This allows the plant to come back to life without visible damage. All it needs is moisture, and its metabolism restarts. A similar effect is observed in other species, for example, Craterostigma plantagenium. They don't just come back to life, they bloom, produce seeds, and manage to complete their entire life cycle before drying out again. But how many times can they revive? Research shows that if dehydration happens too quickly or too often, the plant loses its ability to recover. It all depends on the balance between time and moisture. The spectacle of the dead coming back to life captivates the viewer from the very first second. But nature has also devised other, no less strange survival strategies. Giant leaves and their strategy. In the waters of the Amazon lies a plant giant whose leaves reach 3 meters in diameter. This is Victoria amazonica, the queen of water lilies. Its leaves are not just floating plates, but highly effective weapons in the battle for light. Each leaf is structured like a living fruit. Inside, there are air chambers and rigid ribs that allow the leaf to support up to 100 pounds of weight. It is thanks to this design that a child can safely stand on the surface of the leaf, as long as the weight is evenly distributed. But why does the plant need to be so large? It's simple. In the fierce competition for sunlight, the winner is the one who blocks out everyone else. The Victoria amazonica spreads its leaves at an incredible rate, up to 8 inches a day. On the underside of the leaf are sharp spines. They protect the water lily from fish and other animals that could damage its structure. And on top, the surface is smooth, causing rainwater to roll right off. From an evolutionary perspective, this is a classic example of aggressive resource acquisition. Each new leaf pushes out its neighbors, blocks their access to light, and quite literally smothers competitors with its shade. Other plants use similar strategies, for example the banana or the maranta, by increasing the size of their leaves to maximize light absorption. But when it comes to this, the water lily is the true champion. The sight of these leaves is mesmerizing. But there are plants whose tricks are hidden not on the outside but inside, and their methods are much more cunning. Predators without jaws. When people talk about carnivorous plants, the image that immediately comes to mind is the Venus flytrap with its green jaws. But not all plant hunters use jaws. There are some that catch their prey stealthily and with lightning speed. One of the most effective is the bladderwort. This is an aquatic plant that looks quite unremarkable on the outside. Its weapon is microscopic bubble-like traps. They create a vacuum inside themselves. On the surface of each trap are sensitive hairs. When a small creature swims by and touches a hair, the trap opens and water along with the prey is sucked inside in just a few milliseconds. This is one of the fastest movements in the plant world. After the capture, digestion begins. Enzymes are released inside the trap, dissolving the prey's tissues. A couple of days later, the trap is ready for its next attack. Another type of hidden hunters are parasitic plants such as mistletoe. It has no roots of its own, no leaves. It attaches itself to another plant and feeds on its sap. Without a single leaf, it survives at the expense of its host, literally sucking the life out of it. These forms of predation aren't immediately visible, but they are no less effective. Sometimes the most dangerous plant is the one that doesn't look dangerous at all. We're used to toothy traps, but the real threat often hides in the details, and nature knows how to use subtlety to its advantage. A foul-smelling cold. Imagine a flower that smells like rotting meat. It's neither sick nor damaged. It deliberately smells like a corpse, all for the sake of luring its helpers. That's how Amorphophallus titanum works, for example, one of the largest flowers on the planet. Its scent is a hellish mix of rotten eggs, decaying meat, and fecal fumes. For humans, it's disgusting, but for flies, it's a signal that this is the perfect place to lay their eggs. But the flower doesn't give the insects their freedom. Inside, it's designed like a trap. The slippery walls prevent escape until the fly pollinates the female flowers. Only after that do the walls release it outside, covered in pollen. Then the insect flies to another flower, and the process repeats. The flower uses the fly for its own purposes without giving it any reward. No nectar, no food. Some representatives of the arum genus also use this strategy. Some even heat up so that their scent spreads farther, like a living radiator with the smell of death. This method of pollination is pure deception. Attract, trap, use, release. And all for the sake of continuing the species. Sometimes nature shows that, for the sake of life, even death, or at least its scent, can be used. But what if plants can move not just metaphorically, but literally? The movement of the inanimate. Most of us perceive plants as immobile objects, but there are species that move. This is not an illusion. Some leaves fold up when touched, and seeds crawl along the ground. We're not talking about metaphors, but about real movements. The sensitive mimosa is one of the most famous examples. Its leaves instantly curl up when touched. This is a defense mechanism based on the redistribution of water within its tissues. The reaction takes fractions of a second and scares off insects and herbivores. There are plants whose seeds move instead of their leaves. Wild oats have seeds equipped with awns, which are thin bristles. When it gets humid, they start to twist, and when it dries, they straighten out. These cycles create jolts, and the seed literally walks across the ground. The seeds can move for days until they end up in a crack in the soil or under a stone. There, they get stuck and wait for the right conditions to germinate. This is the simplest way of moving, but it is extremely effective in the wild. There are also slower movements. Codariocalyx motorius turns its leaves toward the light. It's almost unnoticeable, but the leaves move throughout the day, adjusting to the light. Such movements are not conscious, but are the result of evolution. Even in plants, survival strategies can be mobile. This reminds us, even the most immobile organism can turn out to be more cunning than it seems. Parasites without photosynthesis. Can a plant live without sunlight, without photosynthesis, and without chlorophyll? Yes, some plants don't use light at all. They parasitize other plants, taking nutrients and water from them. The most striking example is Rafflesia arnoldi, a giant plant with a flower up to 3 feet in diameter. It has neither leaves, nor a stem, nor roots in the usual sense. It lives inside the tissues of grapevines, only occasionally pushing its huge, foul-smelling flower to the surface. There are other examples as well. In South Africa, Hydnora africana grows, a subterranean parasite that blooms directly from the soil. It emits a strong odor of rotting meat, attracting beetles that crawl inside and unwittingly pollinate it. The rest of the time, Hydnora remains hidden underground, firmly attached to the roots of its host. Such plants are called holoparasites. They have completely lost the ability to photosynthesize. Their only way to survive is to penetrate the vascular system of another plant, from which they draw sap without giving anything in return. Some of them even affect the host's immunity, hacking its defense responses. This makes them especially dangerous. They don't just consume, they alter the physiology of their donor. Formally, they are plants, but in essence, they are natural vampires. In the world of Flora, they play the role of invisible but lethally effective hunters. You won't see them in the forest, but perhaps they're already there, hiding inside their host. Ultra-long dormancy of seeds. The seeds of some plants are capable of waiting for their moment for decades. Their task is not to sprout as quickly as possible, but to wait for ideal conditions, even if it takes 100 years. The record holder for the longest dormancy is the seed of a date palm found in the ancient fortress of Masada in Israel. According to radiocarbon analysis, it lay dormant for about 2,000 years and still managed to sprout after being planted. The secret lies in the exceptional resilience of its shell. Inside, a minimal level of moisture is preserved, and biochemical processes almost come to a halt. This allows the seed to survive cold, heat, drought, and even radiation. Similar examples can also be found in the wild. The seeds of certain species of acacias, cacti, and lotuses are capable of lying dormant in the soil for decades, waiting for rain. Some only open after exposure to fire or mechanical damage to their shell. Interestingly, many of these seeds have a biological trigger, special substances that signal suitable conditions. For example, smoke from forest fires contains compounds that trigger germination in South African plants. This mechanism is the product of millions of years of evolution. In a dangerous environment, it's better to wait a long time than to die immediately. Such seeds seem to be programmed for patience, and only the precise moment awakens them to life. But there are plants that do not wait. They interact with humans right now, creating architecture from living tissues. Living infrastructure. In the Indian state of Meghalaya, a living engineering masterpiece grows. The local Kazi tribe uses the roots of fig trees to create real bridges, not wooden, not stone, but entirely living. These bridges are strong, flexible, resistant to rain, and only grow sturdier with time. When the tree grows, the Kazi guide its aerial roots through bamboo tubes toward the riverbank. There, the roots take hold and gradually fuse together. After 15 or 20 years, a fully functional bridge forms, capable of supporting dozens of people. This technology is not just environmentally friendly, it is perfect for the local climate. Seasonal downpours wash away ordinary structures, but living bridges are impervious to erosion. Moreover, if part of the bridge is damaged, it can simply be regrown. Some bridges are over 500 years old. They are still growing and getting stronger because the tree is alive and people continue to guide its roots. This is not just architecture, it is a collaboration between humans and plants. Similar living structures can also be found in Indonesia and Sri Lanka, but it is the Khasi who have perfected this art. They do not conquer nature, they harness its power. A root bridge is a symbol of how biology and engineering can work together. And while bridges are being created here, other plants prefer to act secretly through scent, deception, and chemistry, chemical illusions. In South Africa, there is a plant with an unusual strategy. Its seeds look like dung and even smell the same. This is Ceratocarium argenteum. It tricks dung beetles into burying its seeds as if they were real feces. For the insect, it seems like a perfect find. It rolls the fake ball underground, hoping to lay its eggs there. But inside, there is no nutrient medium, just a plant seed that has received free delivery to the right depth. This is not an isolated case. Some orchids release substances similar to bee pheromones. Males, deceived by the scent, land on the flower and pollinate it, thinking they've found a mate. Other plants wage chemical warfare. For example, the walnut tree can release compounds that suppress the growth of other plants nearby. This phenomenon is called allelopathy, and it allows the plant to control its territory without physical confrontation. Chemistry in the plant world is a language of deception. Sometimes a plant smells like a corpse, sometimes like a mate, and sometimes it simply poisons its neighbors to claim more space. It's not magic, it's strategy. Plants don't move, they don't attack, but they know how to influence the behavior of others. Through scents, pheromones, and toxins, they build their own world, and some even hide so well that they can't be found at all. Camouflage and concealment. At first glance, these are just ordinary stones, gray, smooth, nothing remarkable. But upon closer inspection, it turns out they're lithops, succulents that perfectly mimic the shape and color of pebbles. Their leaves are almost completely hidden beneath the soil, with only a small slit remaining on the surface. Such camouflage isn't for beauty's sake. It's a defense against herbivores. If you look like an unappetizing rock, no one will want to eat you. And this saves lithops in harsh deserts, where every drop of moisture is worth its weight in gold. Other plants also resort to camouflage. Orchids with leaves that resemble fallen foliage, epiphytes that blend in with tree bark, even cacti that outwardly look like stones. This allows them to survive by remaining unnoticed by predators. Some even change their coloration with the seasons. For example, during the dry season, ferns' leaves turn brown, blending in with the forest floor. This makes them almost invisible against the background of fallen leaves. Camouflage is not about attack, but about defense. The plant's goal is not to stand out. The less noticeable you are, the higher your chances of surviving until the next season. Within this quiet and inconspicuousness lies a powerful strategy. But there are plants that have gone even further. Not only do they hide, but they can also live for centuries. Long-lived organisms. Some plants don't just live a long time, they outlast entire civilizations. In the southwestern United States grows Pinus longeva, or the bristlecone pine. It is over 5,000 years old. It was young when the Egyptian pyramids were being built. This tree looks modest, a low, twisted trunk and scorched branches. But it is precisely this form that helps it survive. It grows in extreme conditions, poor soil, icy winds, and scorching sun. In these conditions, there is almost no decay, and the tree lives for centuries. But there is another type of immortality, clones. For example, in the state of Utah, there is a colony of aspens called Pando. All the trees in it are clones of a single organism. They are connected by a common root system and are genetically identical. Pando is estimated to be over 80,000 years old. This means that the organism appeared even before the last ice age. Individual trees die off, but the root lives on, constantly growing anew. There are also herbaceous plants in the world that use a similar strategy. Some species of mosses and algae exist in the form of clones, renewing themselves every few years, but maintaining the same genetic line for thousands of years. Such a life, not in a single branch, but in an entire organism scattered across time, is a special form of immortality. And the longer you observe the flora, the more questions arise, especially when theories appear that can't always be proven. Conspiracy theories and speculation. The world of plants hides many secrets, and some of them have given rise to real myths. One of the most famous is the legend of a humanoid plant supposedly living in the jungles of Indonesia. This man-eating plant is said to be capable of capturing animals and even people with its tentacles. Such stories were passed on by travelers and missionaries in the 19th century, but there is no evidence. Modern botanists consider these stories to be folklore, possibly based on a misinterpretation of carnivorous plants like Nepenthe. There is also a theory about plants supposedly capable of communicating over a distance. Some studies do show that plants can transmit signals through their root systems, especially with the help of fungi. But claims about plant telepathy have not been scientifically confirmed. Other speculations concern giant trees, supposedly hidden in remote areas, or plants with mutations that allow them to move like animals. Some of these theories are based on rare observations, while others are outright fabrications. It is important to distinguish real phenomena from artistic fiction, although nature itself is already mysterious enough and does not need embellishment. But even fiction shows that plants are so impressive that people want to attribute supernatural powers to them. However, the most important story is not found in myths, but in reality. And it is unfolding right now, in our changing world. What does the future hold for flora? The Earth's climate is changing rapidly, and plants are the first to feel the consequences. Droughts, heat, the disappearance of pollinators, all of this creates pressure that not every plant life can withstand. But it is precisely the extreme plants discussed earlier that may turn out to be the key to survival. Resurrection plants teach us how to conserve water and recover after stress. Parasitic species demonstrate alternative ways of obtaining resources. Seeds capable of lying dormant for centuries suggest how to create long-term reserves. Scientists are already trying to use the genes of resilient plants to create new crops. For example, elements of the sorghum genome, which allows it to withstand heat and drought, are being studied in projects aimed at modifying cereals. There are also attempts to adapt carnivorous plants to combat pests. In the future, botanists and engineers hope to grow living walls, smart trees for urban environments, and even bioactive bridges. More and more research is aimed at making nature an ally in architecture and agriculture. But the threats are real as well. Floral diversity is decreasing. Some rare species are disappearing before we even have a chance to study them. This is not a hypothesis, but a fact documented by dozens of botanical institutions. The future of plants depends on us. Will we preserve their amazing properties or lose them forever? To answer this, we need to understand every leaf, root, and stem is not just a part of nature, but a part of our shared history.